Okay, let's go ahead and we'll get ourselves going again. Okay, and just so you know, in terms of where we are in the handouts, if you're reviewing some of this stuff, the notion of placing another stair, sketching a stair, that's really sort of what we've been working on so far, is really sketching stairs. Turns out there's also a ramp option. A ramp is very much like a stair. It's really defined in the same way. There's a starting point, there's an ending point, a certain amount of distance. Ramps, if you do use ramps, the big thing you do know about them is they take a lot of room because you can only have them slope up very slight distance. There's a lot of restrictions about using ramps. So you probably won't use them inside your house. You may be using them outside the house as a way to kind of ramp up to the front door or something like that. Yeah, but they're defined in a very similar way. You sketch them, the boundary. The big difference is as opposed to having risers, they just have a steady slope that's limited by some sort of just a degree change, a percent change. So how that looks, just so you sort of see, is there's the ramp tool. I'll go ahead and just put one of those down for you so you get a sense of it. We'll say architecture. I'll choose the ramp tool. Again, it's going to be this top and bottom. That's kind of okay. The width, again, we can change all those sorts of things. The big thing you have to watch out for ramps is really, it's just this notion of really what their slope is. So I'll use a straight run. I'll start placing a ramp. And you'll see that a ramp, to get up from the first to the second floor, can be quite long. I'll break it at here, and I'll come back the other way. Still not enough. Come back this way. Let me zoom on out just so you sort of see. Did I get enough? Nope, not quite. Got some more. Okay, that's enough ramp.
The elevation restrictions automatically put it into there.
They're put in there by default, and then from that we can go through and customize them. So let's go ahead and I'll show you where that is. Let me say, I'll just pull that out so you can sort of see how that ramp looks. There's a lot of ramp in there. And it's really quite shallow. It took a long time to get up. Okay. In terms of those restrictions, same thing like the slope of the building. Oh, let me find it. It's probably in the type properties of the ramp. See what it says. Thickness, we got the maximum incline length. That's this whole notion. Often with ramps, you can only go so far before you have to have some sort of flat landing. So it'll kind of cap you so that it doesn't become a wild ride. And there it is. It's this notion, is it 1 in 12? Is it 1 in 5? Yeah, you can change the slope by changing this parameter right here. So you can have different types of ramps. 1 in 12 is, that's that notion that for every inch you rise, okay, we need 12 inches of run. That's 1 in 12, which is really a relatively flat ramp. If you want to, you can probably put that in percentage or something like that too. Okay, so ramps are pretty similar. What I want to show you next, though, is the whole ocean of rails. Let's talk about that, because here's the deal. We got this fantastic looking stair. It's coming up to the top here. We got rails coming up, and everything's great until someone comes walking around and falls in the hole this way. Okay, so you often have to go through and put a little bit of railing in at the top to go ahead and enclose the opening. And it turns out that's a pretty easy thing to do. Rails are one of those objects where we sketch a line, and just based on a type that we choose, it'll put railing along that line. So it's not too bad. You just pretty much have to sketch a line where you want it to be. And let's show you what that looks like. So we're over here. We're on the second floor right now. I'm going to come zooming on in there. What I want to do is actually put a railing just kind of around the opening this way. So what I'll do is go to the rail tool. It's right next to the stair tool. I'll sketch a railing. What I want to do is actually just go through and put some railing around here. So I'll put a rail around here. You can put it right up on the edge. I'm going to put it off the edge just a little so you can sort of see pretty well what I'm up to. I'm going to be hanging around there. That's my railing. Okay. It has a type. Same sorts of types as the railings that are on the stairs. So usually you get them all to match up and things look pretty good. Let me just finish that. Okay. Again, it just wants to be, doesn't have to be a closed boundary. This just has to be a loop of some type, or it can be an open loop. Should be an open loop. Say what? It has to be like one, what it considers one segment or one continuous line. Yeah, doesn't have to be closed. But let's take a look at what's going on here. So I got this rail, and it's not too awfully bad. Actually, let me show you another trick in terms of navigating around. I got a big model. I'm trying to orbit around just this stair. Yeah. Problem is, as I'm orbiting around, it's orbiting around the center of mass of the model, so that's kind of confusing. Okay. What you can do is move the center of your orbit at any one time, and that's on the steering wheel. It's right here. There's the centering tool. So I click the center. I can drop this on top of anything that I want to be the center of the orbit. So doing that just means that it's going to pivot around the stair or the rail as opposed to going all the way around the entire building. So if you're orbiting around a lot and you're always getting, the center seems to be just in an inconvenient location, just again, choose the center tool. It gives you, see that little, it's almost like a little globe in there. You sort of indicate the point on the model that you want to have be the center. And from here on out, it'll use that as the center of the rotation. So just little tricks to get you going. So we're doing pretty good. I got a rail coming up here. I got a rail around the side. It looks like the rail's actually standing off the ground. That doesn't make me too happy. See what's going on over here. It says second floor, top of floor. Let me just orbit around a little bit so I can see better. Looks like my floor is actually hanging low. Ah, the top of the floor does have an offset. There's always something going on. I don't know why I have it set up that way, but let me bring the floor back up to where it wants to be. Okay, that should look a little bit better. No worries. So here's the deal. I got my rail, I got the rail over here. I'd like to get those things to join together so I don't have this kind of ugly gap hanging around right there. To do that, here's what you do. You go on back into that floor plan. You say, I want my rail. I'm going to edit its path. And what we're going to do is just spend a little time kind of cleaning up. Right in here. You can sort of see the rail and the rail out here. The common condition that we'll get into is something that looks like this. And again, I'll apologize. I never get this right the first time, but we'll fix it. Whether I should go to the inside of the rail, the outside of the rail, or the middle of the rail, I'm going to guess the inside of the rail. And since I always guess that, I'm guessing it's wrong. So I'll come up. I'll have a little bit of a return here. Now, I could add another little line in there. It probably makes more sense just to stretch that or trim it, either way. But usually the rails have that little cap on the end that wraps around. Let me see how bad I did. Ooh, not too awfully bad. Off by a little. Kind of makes me wonder why, but we'll figure that out. Over here on this side, I'll do the same sort of thing. So it looks like I'm going to, again, I'll try that from there again. Come back over here. Now, rails are defined in a way where there's a profile and it's going to stand off a certain distance from whatever the center line is. And we're going to learn ultimately how to edit these things. Or there's this notion about how many inches to offset it, what the spacing is, and stuff like that. That's why it's a little bit off right now. I can probably adjust that. But what I want to encourage you is, as we go through and do this, the fact that that rail is still about a ½ an inch off, I'm going to say, let that go at this point in terms of your working with this stuff. Because relative to the whole house you're doing and everything like that, you're going to spend, ultimately we'll get that fixed. But it takes a little bit of work in terms of getting the offsets just right about how the rail is defined on the stair and the rail is defined out there. If it's late at night, you're getting close to the end, and like you spend a ½ an hour working on just trying to get that rail to match that last 2 inches, You're spending time where you probably don't need to just yet. Because I still might come back and say, well, I'm not sure I like the stair there. What if you moved it over here instead? At which point, all that time you spent getting that half-inch moved over is going to be like, for naught. So go ahead and, railings in particular are one of those ones, it bugs people. The other thing that will happen that bugs people is, as you're starting to create multi-story things, the walls will come together, but they won't quite join up right. There'll sort of be this weird little gap in there, and it'll bug you because you can see it in your 3D views. And we can always figure out there's something in this model that's making it do that. But decide how much time you want to spend fixing some of those things right offhand, because it can be fixed, but it's just sometimes a little bit of debugging and tracking it down to figure it out. So, at a high level, rails actually work out pretty easy. You pretty much sketch a path, you choose a type of rail. Here's the rail. If you want to choose a different type, it's a solid wall. It's a guardrail. What else we got in there? This kind of makes me wonder what it is. Not sure what that one was so different about in this particular model. Let's go back to the pipe rail. It's changing around. It's pretty much just sketching a path, and if you need to change the rail, going through and just editing the path. So just choose it, you say edit the path, you get that boundary. And what it won't let you do is have discontinuous paths, so I don't believe, do this. It'll complain, it must be a single connected sketch. So if I need to do that, make 2 different rails. Okay, let's quit out of there for a second. I'll leave you to play with that one. Rails are not so bad. You'll sort of get the hang of those. If you get your stairs down, the rails are not too bad. Next thing up is the issue of, this actually worked out pretty good for this one stair that we have the time to love and kind of really put some work into. What if I had a multi-story building and I wanted to get a lot of stairs going all together in terms of moving the way up an entire large building? Okay, and to do that, let me just open up a different model. Let me say, just open up a new project. So here's the deal. I want to think about a 3 or 4 story building as opposed to a 2-story building. And to get me going, I'm going to take a look at my floor levels here. You'll see I have level 1 and level 2 by default. I'm going to add a couple more floor levels. I don't think we actually did this in class yet. If you want to add more floor levels, there's a level tool. It's actually on the architecture tab. And if you go to an elevation view, you have to do an elevation view. It won't work in a plan view. So in one of the sideways views, I see level 1, level 2. I'll go ahead and add another level, level 3. I'll add another level, level 4. I'll put it at a bad level, or bad height right now, because levels, like anything else, are just objects that can be moved. So if I have 10, 10, 10, and 8, if I want to even them out, all I have to do is choose that level and move it up. I'll change that to 10 instead. So I got 4 levels now. Actually, just so you see, you can actually go ahead and be really, really quick about this. If you want to go ahead and put in 20 levels as a quickie way. Yes?
Is that the distance between center lines or
Typically it's the top of the subfloor. Okay, so the top of the concrete or the top of the plywood or something like that. And you'll recognize 10 is actually it's kind of squishy in there. It's often much more common to be 12 feet or 14 feet or something like that to give room for the HVAC and all the structural stuff. Yeah. Okay, what I did to add it was I went to the level tool. It's in the architecture tab way over on the side. And then I can just draw a new one. Pull that over. Okay, so now I got 5. Now, if you want to do 100 of these, that may be looking a little slow to you, so let me show you kind of a quicker way to do that. We have this notion of drawing all the time, kind of draw, kind of place things explicitly. The thing right next to it that has that little green line and the arrow, that's picking. And picking is often very good. You find me picking things a lot because then I use some other piece of the model as a base point for referencing the geometry. So here's what I have in mind. If I want the next floor level to be 10 feet away from this floor level, I can pick it. And what I'll do is I'll choose the pick tool. Then I can put in an offset. Oh, an offset will be a distance when I pick something where to put the new one relative to the first one. So I'll say, great, let's put it 10 feet away. And then I can just click on this guy, just hovering slightly above, and it'll make some more of them. So what I'm doing is just hovering over that thing, just slightly above it, and as every time I pick, it's creating a new one offset to it. Okay, so just a shortcut for doing that. So offsetting is gonna, you'll learn it starts to be one of your best friends. So I got this nice 8-story building, that's looking okay. Let's go ahead and we're gonna put in a floor and some walls just in this corner of the building, and I'll do that just down on level 1 to get ourselves started. Can't really see very much right now because there's not much going. Okay, so I'm going to put in some walls. I'm just going to put some walls in the corner of a building. I'm actually going to put a little curtain wall right on the corner just so you can see what I'm up to. I'll choose this. I'm going to split the wall, kind of right in here. I'm going to split this wall over here. I'm just going to put a little curtain wall right at the corner I've split these two little sections. This one's here. I'm going to change it to the curtain wall. And I'll change this one over here and change that to the curtain wall. Okay, so far so good. I just got a little corner of a building. Okay, I'm also going to put a floor in this building. So I'll do that. I'll choose the floor tool. And I'll just pick the walls. I'll get you. Okay. Notice I have that curtain wall in there. Loop didn't quite close itself. And what I'll always advocate doing here is, rather than going through and picking the curtain wall too, if I have two strong lines, just trim them together. Okay, it'll be a little stronger as opposed to trying to really follow the line of the curtain wall. Curtain walls are usually subordinate to the floor. Okay, so I'll say finish that up. So looking good. I got one floor on my building. So far so good? Okay, that looks easy. I want to copy this floor up more levels. Actually, I probably wasn't very careful as I did this, was I? In that all these walls kind of hanging around in here are probably a nice unconnected 20 feet, which is an awful thing to be. What I will do instead is change them all so they go to level 2. Okay, that's a little better. I was going to get in trouble with it when I copied this. Okay, so I got level 1 defined real well. I want to make the other 8 stories of the building right now. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and grab all this. Okay, got everything selected right now. I've got the floor, I got the walls, I got the curtain walls, the mullions. Everything's selected. And kind of like what we did last time, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it. And I'll do this thing where I'll align it to levels. So unlike just last time copying it up one level, which didn't really give us a huge advantage, if I say align to selected levels, I can say I would really like it to be on a bunch of levels. So I got instant building. Not too bad. Okay, let me pause there for a second because I did a lot of stuff there. This is really all just in this context of like setting up an example. But it's just I want to have a multi-story building so I can put a stair to it. So any questions about that? Or is that kind of put it on one floor, copy and paste it up? Yes?
So if you had put a roof on the first story, that would have messed it all up.
Yeah. So then what I would do is omit it from the selection. I would cut it out so I wouldn't want to copy that again and again. So the trick is to like only get the things that you want and copy that. Yeah.
Would you want to get the stairs as much done as possible before you grade it up?
A very good question. I could go ahead and put a stair in from level 1 to level 2, okay, and then copy that up. I'm going to show you another way to get the stairs in that works for like shafts, elevator shafts, stair shafts, things like that. That actually sort of handles that for you. But you're right. If I had the main kind of core walls and around the main hallways and some things that were going to be repeated in all the elements, I would probably get them all in there and copy them up. Or a cool thing is you can do it after the fact. If you kind of copied up the shell and then you go through and put a lot of infill in, like core walls and some utilities, you can grab them later, only them, and copy them up too. So, but you're right. Now, get as much as you can for free. Definitely do that. Okay. Any other questions? Generally good? Great. Do you want this model to play with on yours? I can put it up on coursework real quick. You want it? Does anyone want to play along with it? Or do you have one that you're working with right now? What's that? Okay. No worries. Okay, for the stairs, let me just show you what we're going to do because it's going to be pretty quick. Here's the deal. We would like to go ahead and put a stairway in here. And you might recognize the stairway we're going to put in from level 1 to level 2 is going to look an awful lot like the stairway from level 2 to 3 and 3 to 4. Yeah, very, very common in a lot of buildings. The stairs look an awful lot the same. So here's how we're going to make it work. We're going to go down at level 1 or level 2. Doesn't really matter which way we do it. I'm going to put that stairway in. So I'm going to say stairs. I'm going to go from, level 1 to level 2. So I'll put a stairway in here. Zoom on out a little. 8 in. 9 in. Come back over. I'll double it back up that way. So I got one leg of stair right there. Okay, looking pretty good. Say okay. Let's check it out. I still have a problem with the floor, but we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so there's one level of stair. The cool thing about stairs is stairs actually have this really neat property. If you choose the stair, you actually see it has this notion of multi-story available. And when is that useful? That is useful when you have a bunch of levels that all have the same floor-to-floor height. If you have something that can really just copy between a bunch of different levels, you say, I define that stair from level 1 to level 2. Multi-story is, okay, keep on going. Copy it on up to level 3, level 4, however how you want it to go up. So, yeah, if you have a changing floor-to-floor height, you might have to do this in different sections because it'll just take that same thing and just keep on winding it around until it gets up to the level you say. So, same stair, didn't have to change anything here, and even after the fact I can do this. I can just choose, keep that same pattern going and just let it go up a series of different floors. Take it all the way up to the top of the building. So that's really cool, partly because now if anything changes to that stair, I change the railing pattern, I change just the way it's laid out, I change it on one view and it'll change the whole wind. So it handles that regeneration for you automatically. Yeah?
Is there a way to copy, because you're going to have to cut the hole, right? That's the
Yeah.
next step. Are we going to be able to copy that up also?
We can. That's actually a real good question because here's the deal. In that same sense, okay, we have that hole that we're going to put in the floor. You'd like that to copy up too. Okay, so there's really two notions of how you can do this. When you cut individual holes, super, that cuts away the floor. That's kind of okay. Then you can go up to the next floor and trace it, kind of do that. This notion of really having a shaft that runs all the way up the building is so strong that actually they put a special tool in just for that, where you can go through and say, I have this boundary, just make it a clear space all the way up the entire building. It'll cut the hole, not only in the floors, it'll also cut a hole in any ceilings that happen to be in the way. It won't do pipes and mechanical equipment, it'll honor that stuff, but anything that sort of gets into its way that is typically cut by the shaft, it'll cut that for you automatically. You can avoid that out. So here's what that looks like. Okay, you got the stair, you're hanging around in here. You'd love to go ahead and kind of cut the floor. What you can do is, right over here, there's this tool called, it's in the architecture tools, a shaft. Creates a vertical opening. How does it work? I'll just go through and put it in here. Kind of wrapping around all that stuff. Okay, it has a start, it has a stop. Right now it's going -1 foot relative to level 1. That means it would actually cut away some of the first floor slab. I'm going to take that out because I want to leave that first floor slab there. So I'll just put that back to 0. It can go up to an unconnected 20 feet. But in our case, what we're going to do is take it all the way up to level 8 so that it gives you all the things in between. So top will be up to level 8. Say okay to that. Finish that up. And let's take a look. So you go zooming on in there. You see it actually cut away all the floor openings too. Okay. it still hasn't gone ahead and fixed up the whole issue of the railing on the individual floor levels. We still have to go back and patch that up. Okay, but at least in terms of the stairway and kind of cutting the opening, it's doing okay. So let's talk about how we would fix that up. Okay, what's going on here? That's going up, that's going down. So at any individual level here, let me think about my rails and what they got to do. So I'm on the second floor level now. What I would like to do is put some sort of railing in here that does something like this. I don't want people falling in the hole over here. Okay, that's one rail. Since I can't really do them together, I'm going to have to do this other piece separate. I can't do this like a separate piece or a single piece. Oh, even in here, I'm drawing lines. Let me say chain them. That's going to make them stick to me. So I'm going to say, okay, where is it? It's more or less this thing. It's interesting. I'm always off by about a half. Let me do this to the center lines. That might work better. I'm going to put another little piece right in here. Again, I'm guessing this one's actually set up for the centers, but I may be off. I need to trim that up. Trim that down there. That's two of them. That was like, center lines seem to be good on this one. In that case, let me be good. I'll align AL. Actually, I don't think it's going to let me do that. Shove it up. Okay, not too bad. Okay. If I was really good, I'd go through and I probably need a little bit of rail off on that side to make sure people don't just drop off by the glass. But I'll leave that for you. Okay. I have carefully loved this rail. I put it on there. It looks fantastic on the second floor. I want to get it up to the third floor, the fourth floor, and all that. So what am I going to do? Oh, you know the answers. I'll grab that one. I will grab this one. I will copy and then just paste it up to, in this case, just 3 through 8. Okay. How anticlimactic was that? But it kind of does it. So, cool news is, stairs and the whole issue of multi-story stairs, it does a pretty good job with. Okay, so you're in pretty good shape there. That's kind of where we want to go with stairs in terms of stairs, openings, rails, shafts. Let's kind of pause there for a second. How's that sort of feeling? Got a sense of how you're going to create your stair? Okay. Yep. If you're looking good, then let's go ahead and shift to the second major thing we want to talk about today, which is really this whole thing of the design options. Just give you a quick sense of that, because it's not a hard concept, but it just it takes a minute for your mind to get used to this notion. So, and I'll just do it in my building here. So I'm up on the 8th floor of my building here. And I'm just going to put some walls in here. So what I want to do is I'm going to design this the way, my primary design ideas. I'm going to put some walls in here just based on something that people are thinking about. Might be their, kind of the primary way I'm going to suggest doing this. So I'll put in some walls. And I'll put some doors in here. Flip that over. Okay. So this is my primary design idea. It's not too exciting, but it's a primary design idea. Actually, let me do something else just to kind of make it a little more interesting to you. I'll put in some desks. What else I got in here? Anything interesting? Not much here. Parking spaces. Like, how often do you put those in? Okay. I'll load in some chairs just because I want to have some chairs in here. So furniture, seating, chair, desk. Guess I got some desk chairs here. So this is one layout of how we could lay out the top floor of the building. Not very exciting, but it'll serve the purpose. Okay. Let's talk about another layout. I could go ahead and have a different arrangement of the walls. I could have a different arrangement of the furniture. A lot of things I could do to start changing this up. Overall, though, I'd like to keep the overall building. I'm not going to change this big building. That's okay. I'm just going to show you some different options about how we might lay out the 8th floor. Something like that. So how do we do that? Some stuff we want to stay constant. Some stuff we want to put into the mix of the ability to change those things. So some stuff belongs to what's ultimately called a main model. Okay, other stuff belongs to stuff that are called design options. Okay? And at any one time, okay, you can go through and have a single design option that is considered the favored one. The one that, if we had to freeze it today, that would be it's the leading candidate. It's the one you'd probably use. Okay, it'll show up by default. Okay, so we have alternate universes we can kind of bring in as necessary, but for the most part, we leave things kind of hanging with one main one. And, in the slides, just if you want to sort of follow along in the notes at some point, it looks like this. You have the notion of the main model, then underneath the model, you have different sets of things. So you could say, okay, I might want to have one set which is all about the wall arrangement, so the arrangement of the walls in the offices. Okay. I might want to have another set which is all about the arrangement of the furniture. Okay. You could put those things together into a single set, but just think about which things you want to try changing independently of each other versus together. So I'm actually going to create two sets. One set all about the walls and one set all about the furniture. Then in each of those sets, you have option 1, option 2. So those are different options within that range of things you want to change. Okay, so stop for it. That's sort of, how does that feel at a high level? That there's kind of a hierarchy to it and then options under each leaf or each branch of the hierarchy. Okay. If that's feeling pretty good, let's implement that. So here we are. We're hanging around over here in our model. In terms of design options, they live in a number of places here. I believe they're under Manage. I'm having a hard time finding these. There they are, design options right here. They also live down here in the bottom of the toolbar. But if you choose design options, you get this thing for setting up this branch hierarchy. And it starts with which sets do you want to create. So I'm going to create one set, and I will rename it. I'm going to call this the office wall layout. And I'm going to have option 1. Let me just leave that. I'm going to call this sort of, let me rename it. I'll call that small offices. Okay. Maybe I'll create option 2, which will be big offices. Something like that. Just another variation. Oops. So I just have two different ways I'm going to lay out the walls. One that's going to give them big offices, one that's going to give them small offices. And this notion, one of the options being primary, that means that's the default right now. If I don't specify anything else, that's the one that's going to be considered primary. It'll show up on the plan views. Okay. I'll create another option set. This will be about the furniture. So again, options are the subordinate ones. Option sets are the groups. Let me say option set. I'll rename that. I'm going to call this my furniture layout. And within there, we'll have, what is it? What is it? Lots of desks. Maybe in my other one, I'd have like cubicles. Oops. Hang on. Let me rename that. I'll call that like open office or cubes, whatever you want to call it. So again, I have two different sort of things I want to consider. The overall model is staying the same. I'm just changing some things underneath. Okay, so get the idea where we're going? Okay, beauty. Let me go ahead and close that up. So we're looking at the default right now. We're looking at the main model. And the main model always shows anything that's not in the option set, so anything that's considered constant. And it also shows you things that are in the primary option sets. Okay, so the ones that are currently the leading candidates. So right now, everything's in the main model. This is the way you're going to start your assignment. You're probably going to design that house and have one primary design for it. And then we'll decide to take some of the elements in the model and push them into an option set, just so that we can start changing things. So if, for example, in one of my option sets, I want to grab these interior walls, what I can do is just select those interior walls and the doors that go in them. If you get the walls, the truth is the doors come with them. And even in terms of option sets, if you want to change doors, you actually have to put the wall in the option set because the door belongs to the wall. It's sort of, you have to kind of get the owner object in there. So I got all these walls right now. If I want to put them into an option set, what I do is it's either under the Manage tab, right there, this thing called Adding It to the Set, or it's also down here in the little status, or in the, I guess it's the status bar down at the bottom, the option set there. We're going to add it to a set. And basically, these walls right here, which sets do you want to add them to? Okay, so I'm definitely going to put it in the small offices option, without a doubt, because this is my small offices option. So even though I'm putting them into a set, I want to keep this work, so I'm going to put them into the primary. As to whether I put them in the second option, that really just depends on, would you prefer to start with a clean slate, or would you prefer to use a copy of these as a starting point for making differences? Okay, so either way sort of works. Because what it will do is it'll just make a copy and put them in that set. It'll really be independent. So anything I change in option set 2 won't affect option set 1. So I'm just not going to put them there right now just to kind of keep it cleaner for you. But either way would work. Okay, so I'm looking at the main model. And since those walls are considered part of the primary option, they're showing up in the main model. So far, so good? Okay. I switch over, and there's a little menu that lets me switch down here to the small offices option. Okay, so I'm turning on my alternate realities right here. I'm looking at small offices. If I choose that, you see, I can see the items which are in that option set. Everything else is kind of grayed out a little bit, but these are the walls that are being considered in option 1. Okay. They're still showing up because that's the primary one. I'm looking at the details of that one. Okay. I come popping over here to the other option set. Okay. What's going to happen to those walls? They're actually, well, good guess. Good guess, close. They're just going to disappear completely because they're not in that option. Okay, so those walls, they're in option small offices. They're in the main model because small offices is considered the primary option right now. They're not in big offices. Okay, we're over here in big offices. Let's do some design work. So in this design option, what do I want to have? Oh, these guys, they get big offices. He's got a big office. She's got a big office. Actually, that's not fair. Her office is smaller. That's better. Okay. So we got some different arrangement of the offices in here. Doors, whatever we want to put in here. I'm going to hit the tab. That'll flip that for me as I'm doing that. Okay. This is my big offices option. Got it? Okay. What's going to happen when I go back to main model? Again, pretty good guess. But no. Okay. The truth is, only one of the options gets to be considered the primary one at any time. So at this point, small offices is considered the primary one. That's why it shows up in the main model. Okay. Not to despair. You meet with your client says, hey, I like option B. That's looking pretty good here. Give me the big offices. No worries, I can do that. We'll open up this dialog again. Small offices is primary. If you want big offices to start being the primary option instead, choose it and just say, make it the primary. That's okay. I'll live with that for now. Say close that up. Okay. Because big offices are primary, now that becomes the one that shows up in the main model. Okay. So that's really the essence of design options. It's just you put things into these options and you just get to control which one shows up in the main model all the time. Option A or option B. So same sort of sense over here. I got this furniture kind of hanging around in there. And that furniture right now, that's going to be in my second design option set. So what can I do? I'll grab that furniture. I'll say, let's add that to a set. I'm going to put it not in the office walls, I'm going to put it in the furniture layout. So different set of options. Okay. Again, I can copy it to both or just leave it in one. So I'm going to copy it to both this time. Okay, I'm in main model. Okay, I'm showing what turns out to be the primary one, which I think is the first one, which is desks. You can tell it's primary down there. Okay, here's desks. Desks are looking pretty good the way they are. If I want to start changing the other one, open office cubes, I can do, oh, I'll just move the desks around. I think even out here in my components, let's see if I find something. Load family. I never play around in this section very much. Let's see if we get it. Furniture systems, cube panels, workstation. Ooh, check that out. Throw some cubes in here. That sounds awful. I'm condemning you to the cube world. Okay. Oh, come on. Don't fight with me. I'll shove those together. Okay, I'll copy some more desk chairs in here. Copy those around. Okay, so I've created my cube jungle here. So this is all in open office cubes. Okay, so strictly in that option. If I go back to desks primary, they're not there because those are really two independent copies. Okay, if I go back to main model, what's going to show up? Yeah. Desks are going to show up because they're considered the primary. Not to worry, we want to change that. We can again change the primary. We'll say, oh, nope, they like the cube idea, so we'll make that one the primary too. Okay. Now it'll show up. So you have this ability to kind of page things in, page things out, just as much as you want to. And that's really what you want to be doing for the assignment. It's really, again, for what you're doing, choose some little area of the building. Again, you're not redesigning the whole building, just choose something. You know, a couple of the bedrooms or the way the furniture's laid out, or maybe it's the garage or the carport. Choose some little piece that you're going to have an option A versus an option B, okay, so that you can have, just show people some options. But don't be thinking about changing everything. Okay. Now, the last piece you may want to know about this is, okay, this is kind of cool in terms of the fact that the main model always shows whatever's primary. What if I actually want to put the option on a sheet of paper? Okay, one that isn't the primary one. How do you do that? And here's how that works. Last confusing concept for today is every view has this notion of, do you want to show the default option, which is whatever one is primary, or do you want to lock a view to a specific option? Okay, so let me show you what I mean by that. So I'm on level 8 here. It's showing me just the main model and whatever's primary for each of the options right now. Okay, is that okay? Got the hand of that? Invisibility graphics, let me show you where that comes from. We haven't paid any attention yet, but way over on the end, there's something called design options, and for each of the different option sets, it says, which one do you want to show? And if it's set to automatic, what's going to happen is it'll always show whatever one's the primary one. Okay? Generally, that's a pretty good behavior. Now, however, when you want to put on a piece of paper something showing option B that hasn't been selected as the primary, here's what you got to do. So I'm going to take that level 8. I'm going to duplicate it. And call it level 8, okay, furniture, option B. Okay. It looks amazingly like, watch, I'll duplicate the other one. Again. the main because it is right now, because that's the default option. Let me rename this guy here. Level 8 furniture option A. So I got two different views. They appear to be showing the same thing right now. And the reason they're showing the same thing right now is because they're both set to automatic. That's just the default behavior, is to always show the automatic. If you want to lock these so they actually show one option or the other in all time, okay, what you do is choose that, say visibility graphics, and if I want to lock that to furniture option B as opposed to leaving it automatic, you just choose that specific option, and then whichever one's primary, it'll always show you option B. Okay, similarly, over on the other side, furniture option A, it's showing B right now because it's still set to automatic. So what I have to do is change visibility graphics and change that so it's locked to option A. So now we got three views. One is completely automatic. One is locked to option A, no matter what is primary. And the other one's locked to option B, again, regardless of what's primary. Okay, so that's kind of all there is to design options. It's pretty much put them in the right sets and then control which one you want to be viewing at any one time. Does that make sense? Okay, go ahead and get started with that in terms of what's going on. Give it a try for something very simple. Come to office hours tonight or on Monday. Great, so right after class we'll be in there answering questions about that. To see if you can kind of like get the hang of that. Even if your options aren't complete yet, go ahead and just give it a try and see if you can kind of get that thing there. Okay, oh, we didn't get to the creating of the custom furniture. Let me show you this, just in case you want to do that. We'll talk about this next time, but if you are working ahead and you want to start creating some like custom types, you will find, oh, where is it? Under Fixtures, Fittings, and Furniture of the BIM curriculum, you'll actually find a lesson that's specifically on that. Where is it? Modeling in-place components. So if you go there, you'll find a nice little video tutorial that will walk you through exactly how you extrude to create a custom countertop and some sort of boundary that you want to go ahead and fill in. So that's a good starting point.